Welcome to Monday through Friday, Cellular Agriculture for a Pandemic-Free Future. My name is George Ortega, and this is episode number 49. I'm recording it on Sunday, September 13th at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. And I was kind of like mixed about whether to make this show an optimistic show, just like basically exploring how this COVID-19 can wake up our consciences, because just, can prepare us to finally battle climate change and just get our acts together in a lot of other ways. But I was thinking of what the theme would be earlier today and yesterday, and it seems like I want to, for the last several days, I want to continue exploring, this issue of morality that is at the heart of all this. In other words, like, let's accept, both the scientific and the theological perspectives give us the same answer. We're theologically, morally, we're abusing, paying people to torture for us, tens of billions, over 70 billion animals each year. And that creates the conditions that create pandemics. And so that's God's punishment for that cruelty. Well, and scientifically, that's, basically by doing that, this is not morality, this is basic science, basic logic. You cram a lot of animals into small, they don't have room to move, and just like the conditions are beyond unsanitary. With chickens, they're left in this airplane hangar-sized shed, tens of thousands of them, in their own urine and excrement for weeks. I mean, that's just one example. It's horrible. So yeah, I think that it's important to continue just brainstorming what is wrong with us. What is wrong with us? I mean, it's not like the past generations have been so moral, with slavery and discrimination, and but this, my generation, we grew up, in the 60s, 70s. We're coming out of, I guess, I didn't realize it was so soon after World War II in perspective. World War II ended around, 46? So it was like 15, 20 years after that. And I'm thinking maybe like so many people had gone through so much pain that parents, were reluctant to impose on their children after that the kind of, let's say, discipline that was needed to win the war. Where I imagine, people were on edge, and, you had to do right, I'm just guessing on this, but, there was a permissiveness that I think, I think it led to some good things happening, but I also think it created some problems. But that speculation is just like inconsequential, really, because like it's not really all that important to know what happened, or why it happened. I mean, what's important is like, to look at ourselves now, to see what's happened to us. Not only did we cause this pandemic by our indifference, our callousness and cruelty to those animals, I know it shows a kind of lack of concern for ourselves also, that kind of recklessness. You generally, people will indict people, let's say, drink too much or engage in certain activities as being reckless. I mean, this is the whole world being that way. And so, yeah, my last thought was, well, it's understandable the within the framework that, let's say, somebody starts drinking, right? And then they're drinking too much, for weeks, months, I don't know, years. But nothing happens. This person just doesn't feel any symptoms of this drinking. And so naturally, the person's going to keep drinking. And, in the meantime, the alcohol, the overconsumption might be just wreaking havoc on the person's liver or whatever, just killing them, without his noticing, So as opposed to somebody who, who's drinking as much, but then they begin to feel symptoms, and let's say with alcoholism, it's known as, I guess, reaching rock bottom. They just they pass out. They do something. There's a crisis event, or they experience some symptoms that cause them to assess. Oh my God, it's the drinking that's doing this. Drinking is killing me. Over drinking, whatever. I need to stop. So, and that's really a good analogy for what we're going through now, because like until now we haven't. Oh, and then there's a third scenario that I think explains us. So then there's a person who is an alcoholic and gets the symptoms, and passes out, but doesn't put two and two together. Does that? Oh no, it's not. It's not the drinking. It's something else. So I think that scenario explains better the kind of situation we're in. I mean, if people cannot put two and two together and surmise that this pandemic curse is a result of our treatment of those animals, again, either from a scientific or a moral theological perspective, if people can't put that together, and they're not, the media isn't doing it, the politicians aren't doing it, you don't hear people talking about this, about the moral dimensions, or like how we're causing this and what we need to do to stop future pandemics. And because I scoured the news, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, NPR, and I don't bother with Fox because they probably deny the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, how do you explain that? I don't know, but maybe we haven't, maybe we're too busy, defeating Trump. Maybe like, another 4 years of Trump is so eminently dire, that we can't both address this pandemic in the right way and defeat him. Maybe that would be too complicated. That seems like a reasonable, that seems like a reasonable kind of assessment. So, all right, let's say that's the case. So then I would expect that, but no, I'm sorry, that can't explain it completely, but still, the media could be running stories on what we need to do. People could be prepared. People don't think that way. It's like, with climate change, yeah, it's happening. We're not doing anything, and people are fine with that. People are thinking it's the same thing with this, but the problem is the difference between climate change and this is that climate change happens over decades. I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to be like, much more severe than this pandemic distancing and shutdown and all that. But this pandemic is happening now, and it could happen. We can get another one in 5 years. And I've shown that table where the frequency of outbreaks and epidemics are increasing, dramatically. And I'm talking about, not exponentially, because that's like times, but like, just substantially. I mean, when you get like 40 epidemics in a decade, and that's the number of epidemics that we had during the past century, That'll tell you everything, and that's, again, I've shown the table. That's what the data shows. So, but, that, again, there've got to be more answers. And that's, between now and, when we hopefully wake up and start, doing what we should be doing, I will be trying to brainstorm, what is wrong with us, as people individually and collectively as a society. It's not just the United States. It's not just the rich countries. It's like people don't care. In the poor countries, I mean, like, the animals, I mean, like, it's beyond. So why don't people care? Maybe people have developed a kind of an attitude that, they trust the quote unquote experts way too much. Maybe they consider that, well, if the politicians are not talking about this, and then the academics aren't talking about this, the media isn't talking about this, the clerics aren't talking about this, maybe for the average person, that means that, well, if nobody's talking about it, apparently there can't be a problem. That, fine, all right, that explains, I think, a lot of this. People naively trusting our leaders to be doing the right thing. And but then that doesn't explain the leaders themselves, and the upper class, the class in power, because of money, influence, whatever. I guess there's a certain noblesse oblige that comes with having a lot of money, a lot of influence in society, and the people whose responsibility has been to lead us, because they've been given so many blessings and so much, they've been positioned to lead us in certain ways, to the extent that they shirk their responsibility. That's a major problem, because it's not just with this pandemic, it's with climate change. It's again, I've talked, like, I'm not sure if, I guess I'm an extreme liberal, like, economically. I think that like 3 people on the planet being worth more than the bottom 50% combined, 3 top billionaires, that's like beyond wrong. I mean, you can't, that's got to be fraught with problems. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. So, like, yeah, economically, I think we need to, so that money doesn't corrupt us all or corrupt our leaders. It's happening now, to have them less money to work with. So that is certainly part of what needs to be done. But I don't know, lost my, this is hard. So yeah, all right. So, all right, we yeah, the rich people are not doing their job. They're not leading us. Our leaders aren't leading us. And to be honest, I've worked with Democrats. Oh, what I was going to say, yeah, I'm generally liberal in a lot of ways, but for example, I'm beginning to think that abortion is really wrong. That for us to be aborting as many lives each year as die of every other cause combined, from a fairness perspective, and think about it, like, if it's wrong to kill a child, let's say who's 6 months old, right? Why wouldn't it be wrong to kill that same child 6 months before they're born? What, this time difference makes it different? I don't think so. I think that the issue is like, well, people deserve to live because living is a blessing. So it's just unfair for fine, there are sometimes medical reasons, the danger of life to the mother, but we've been way, I think, too lax with that, and that and so that's like, I'm accustomed to blaming the Republicans for almost everything. But, with this abortion issue, and the fact that, it's not like, there may be more Democrat vegans than Republicans. I'd imagine there would have to be, but, the vegan population in the United States is about 1-2% of the entire population. So that, the Democrats are complicit, liberals are complicit in this, horrible torture of these animals and creating these conditions for pandemics. So, yeah, I mean, what to do, right? I mean, like, part of, and this is, I guess this isn't just brainstorming what can be done, but maybe brainstorming how to navigate it best. And even that, might be a problem. Because let's say, I start giving you advice about like, well, we should be doing the right thing, but don't let it get to you. Don't get upset. Don't be afraid. Because that tends to be my strategy. But then, that the problem with that is like, if you're not afraid, if you're not feeling some pain, many of you won't do anything. Some of us, I ordinarily, to a great extent, don't need that kind of pain to teach me, what to do. Because I can imagine punishment in the future, and just like, imagining just what those animals go through, how terrible that is. But I suppose, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, the question becomes like, is it in our best interest to remain really sane and sober and to just deal with this, to just accept it? Or might it serve us better for people to be freaking out, whether it's about this or the stock market, the economy, whatever it is? And I don't have an answer to that. Ideally, it'd be best if we didn't deal that pain. But again, like with alcoholism example, sometimes, feeling some pain, receiving some punishment is clearly in one's best interest, But again, the basic question, let's get back to the basic question. How do people, and you can't blame the leaders on this because like, the people have to take some responsibility, how are people not demanding that we treat those animals better? How are people just like eating as much beef and pork and chicken as they want, knowing a lot of people know what those animals are going through and they just don't care. I mean, what are the excuses? Oh, my life is so complicated as it is right now. I just don't have the bandwidth. Well, yes, that could be the case. But, the problem with that is that we complicate our lives. I mean, we've got jobs to go through. But like, for example, if a job is taking somebody, let's say 60 hours a week to finish, because let's say it has a huge salary and they don't have time to deal with these kinds of things, so they're working all the time, I'm not sure that's an excuse. Get a job that pays less, that gives you time to be a better person. But, it extends beyond that. I mean, like, how to, and I guess part of this series is what do people need to hear? Because I've done episodes where, I've showed you the figures that, this is, the next one may come in 5-10 years. It may be 40 times worse, literally, maybe 40 times more lethal. And I've explained the antibiotic resistance that goes along with this. 80% of our antibiotics being used in these factory farms, where the bacteria just like, mutate and become resistant to the antibiotics we use. And that some people are suggesting that might create a bigger problem than even climate change. So this farming of animals is just like unbelievably threatening. And now, I guess most people shouldn't be expected to, most people shouldn't be expected to know things like that, but no, the other half of that is the media should be expected to appreciate that kind of threat, to appreciate the threat in general of these factory farms especially. And that's not happening. The media, like, come on, I mean, like it's money's running this world. Money owns the media and money owns our politicians. And like, yeah, capitalism has been like heroin or something. And not like I've ever taken heroin, but my understanding is like, makes you feel really, really good. And it seems to be working really, really well. Then you find, it just like destroys things. I mean, some drugs are like that. And so that seems to be what unregulated capitalism is doing to us, to the extent that we allow as much money as people have in politics, don't regulate that. That creates a huge problem, and again, to the extent we allow individuals to own thousands of media, outlets or whatever, just like, they may own 20, 30 newspapers, giving them undue influence, and people use that influence, to, the right wingers to, but it's, even that influence, it's in the service of money anyhow, because yeah, these people who own the media, they have ideological twists, but a major, one of the things they're trying to do is just maintain the status quo that keeps them up at the top. And so, and that's where like, oh well, we can do stuff, but no, don't mess with the income distribution, don't mess with the wealth distribution. I like my two houses, and that, so money does tend to be a corrupting influence. I mean, like, we've known this. It's corrupted our politics, it's corrupted our science, our media. And naturally, it's like too much money in the hands of people who really, when somebody makes money, that just shows that they're good at making money. It doesn't show, as Trump is showing us, that they're a good person, or that they're a wise person, or they're a knowledgeable person in terms of like, these wider societal and global issues. And but our system just hands them all the power. Oh yeah, you made some money. Yeah, you definitely just like take control of the politics, take control of the media, and yeah, that's where we are. And so I'm trying to think of answers. I can't think of any. So like the next step is, well, I guess perhaps civilization is in decline. Perhaps that we are like that alcoholic where, yeah, we understand the problem, but we can't stop drinking. Yeah, we're feeling the pain. We go to the doctor says, you've got to stop or else, and we don't stop. So, all right, well, if that's the route we want to take, then yes, let's get philosophical. If civilization is in decline, irrevocably, then what else is there to do but enjoy the downhill slide, to not let it get to you? Because I mean, like, again, if we can't summon up the conscience to do what's right, we might as well just enjoy our descent. If somebody's like an alcoholic and they're in a hospital, their liver isn't working, who would advise them to suffer that more than is necessary? So yeah, from that perspective, yeah, we humans have been around, human beings in this form, maybe 10, 20, 30,000 years, and in different forms, obviously, hundreds of thousands, several million years before. But we've got a 14 billion year universe, and probably an eternity behind that, an eternity ahead of that. And so, bottom line, it doesn't really matter whether we're here or not. It doesn't matter whether we're at 7 billion people or 9 billion people that's predicted for 2050, or we get reduced to under 1 billion people. We just like could, there's a lot of, you know, I mean, one of the problems with these pandemics is like when it creates economic turmoil, then people start fighting for limited resources, you know, so who knows? And that's, you know, but I mean, like you know, fine, you know, that's a philosophical perspective, you know, don't suffer this as if it's inevitable, because why? But I can't maintain that. I can't, in other words, like either suggest that or live that without also continuing to try to find answers to what's going on. You know, a lot of it is, you know, that there's that saying, don't expect a person to understand something when their job depends on their not understanding it. And that's, you know, that's everything. Because, like, you know, the clerics should be talking about this, the media should, the journalists should be talking about this, the politicians, but they're afraid of, yeah, and reasonably, you know, that, you know, they'd be rocking a big boat, that'd be rocking in a major way, and that there'd be pushback, but it's the right thing to do. You know, if you're going to be a journalist, then report what needs to be reported. If you're going to be a politician, say what needs to be said. If you're going to be a cleric, well, we need moral leadership. You know, yeah, it's not everything. You know, it's important to keep communities together, and you know there are other aspects of this, but you know, clearly we're skewed too much toward just like this laissez-faire, just like, oh, let things play out the way they do. You know, it's not my responsibility to try to change things, and that's unfortunate. All right, well, you know, maybe by tomorrow I will feel more optimistic and, you know, turn optimistic with the series. Otherwise, we'll stay with this morality thing, because it really is the foundation of it. Okay, thanks for watching. Catch this every Monday through Friday. White Plains Community Media, channel 76 if you get Optimum, 45 you get Verizon. The video episodes are also on YouTube, and then the audio versions are on iTunes and Spotify and some other platforms. And yeah, I will. I just sent like about 400 emails to the media, just like basically telling them this message and pointing out to them. You know, I sent them that table. You know, they're like, hey, these are not 1 in 100-year events. You know, they're happening more and more frequently. So let's see if people pick up on that. All right. Well, I hope you had a good weekend, and God willing, I will see you tomorrow. Okay. Thanks.